Hi, and welcome to today's Daily Chronicle. Today is Thursday, September 25th, 2025. A statue of Trump and Epstein holding hands in D.C. is removed as fast as it appeared. A statue depicting President Trump and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein holding hands popped up near the U.S. Capitol on Tuesday. A statue of President Trump holding hands with Jeffrey Epstein appeared briefly on D.C.'s National Mall this week, only to be removed after less than a day. The bronze-painted installation, titled Best Friends Forever, depicts the two men smiling at each other. Each with an arm and leg raised as if in mid-frolic. In honor of Friendship Month, we celebrate the long-lasting bond between President Donald J. Trump and his closest friend, Jeffrey Epstein, reads the plaque, emblazoned with hands making a heart shape. September is widely recognized as Friendship Month. Trump has repeatedly downplayed his relationship with Epstein, the convicted sex offender who died in jail in August 2019. But it remains a sore spot for the president, as his administration faces continued calls to release the Epstein files. A trove of documents from various investigations into the disgraced financer. A group called the Secret Handshake claimed responsibility for the statue after it arrived on the National Mall on Tuesday morning, while a National Park Service permit issued for the statue, obtained by NPR. Allowed it to remain there until Sunday evening. Eyewitness video showed U.S. Park Police hauling it onto a truck before sunrise on Wednesday. A spokesperson for the Department of the Interior told NPR that the statue was removed because it was not compliant with the permit issued, though did not specify how. A secret handshake is accusing the Trump administration of illegally removing the statue as part of its crackdown on speech it disagrees with. On the heels of ABC's temporary suspension of Jimmy Kimmel's late night show under pressure from the Federal Communications Commission, the White House did not respond to NPR's questions about the artwork's removal, but had previously criticized it. Liberals are free to waste their money however they see fit. But it's not news that Epstein knew Donald Trump, because Donald Trump kicked Epstein out of his club for being a creep. White House spokesperson Abigail Jackson told NPR on Wednesday. A secret handshake group member who spoke on the condition of anonymity out of fear of retaliation from Trump administration told NPR over email that it found out late Tuesday that some people within the Parks Department, aka most likely the Trump administration, were trying to find ways to say we were not in compliance. They said the group was reassured that if it were to happen, it would get 24 hours written notice to remove the statue themselves, as required by the permit. Instead, they showed up in the middle of the night without notice and physically toppled the statue, broke it, and took it away. The member said, "We do not know where it is." On Wednesday afternoon, the group member told NPR they had been allowed to see the statue and sent NPR pictures of the figures, ripped from their pedestals and broken into pieces. Friendship as a sensitive subject. The plaque beneath the statue titled, "In Honor of Friendship Month." President Trump has long sought to distance himself from Epstein, saying their friendship ended after a falling out in the early 2000s. Trump and Epstein ran in similar circles in Florida and New York City, beginning in the 1980s. They socialized at parties and flew together on Epstein's private jet. In one 2002 interview, Trump called Epstein a terrific guy and referenced their shared penchant for beautiful women. But Trump says their friendship ended in 2006 when Epstein was indicted for soliciting prostitution. In 2019, after Epstein was arrested on sex trafficking charges, Trump repeatedly described himself as not a fan and said the two hadn't spoken since a falling out some 15 years earlier. And in July, Trump said he had banned Epstein from his Mar-a-Lago club in Florida after Epstein repeatedly stole employees who worked at the spa there, including some young women. Epstein's life and death remains the focus of intense public scrutiny and suspicion, particularly when it comes to allegations that his wealthy, powerful network helped facilitate and cover up his crimes. The names of several powerful figures, including Trump, have appeared in flight logs and other already released records related to Epstein's case. Though there is no public evidence that they have been involved in Epstein's offenses. Trump's refusal to release the Epstein files, despite his campaign vow to do so, has prompted criticism across the aisle and pressure from Congress. In August, the House Oversight Committee subpoenaed thousands of pages of records from the Justice Department regarding its investigation. Into Epstein and his associate, Ghislaine Maxwell. It released some of those documents earlier this month. Among them was a copy of the book of the 50th birthday well wishes that Epstein's friends made for him in 2003, which includes a crude image signed by Trump. When the Wall Street Journal first reported on the note in July, Trump dismissed it as fake and sued the publication for defamation. Notably, the plaques beneath the Trump and Epstein statues that briefly graced the mall bear quotes from that letter, including, "Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret." A series of satirical statues. The Friendship Statue is one of several anti-Trump sculptures to materialize in the heart of D.C. in the past year. The secret handshake told NPR, "It is responsible for almost all of them, and never had trouble getting permits for any of them. The first arrived on the National Mall late last October, just ahead of the 2024 election. It was a bronze replica of former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's desk, topped with her nameplate, a land phone, post-it notes, file folders, and a perfectly swirled pile of feces, a la poop emoji. The statue, titled "The Resolute Desk," bore a plaque honoring the brave men and women who broke into the United States Capitol on January 6, 2021, to loot, urinate, and defecate throughout those hallowed halls in order to overturn an election. The installation made such a splash that the group extended its permit an extra week, through the day after the election. A few days after the desk landed on the mall, another bronze statue of a fist clutching a tiki torch made its debut in Freedom Plaza, just blocks from the White House, titled "The Donald J. Trump Enduring Flame." Its imagery and plaque reference the 2017 Unite the Right white nationalist rally and Trump's reaction to it. This monument pays tribute to President Donald Trump and the very fine people he boldly stood to defend what they marched in Charlottesville, Virginia, it read. Two more satirical statues popped up in a similar spot on the National Mall this June. One showed a giant golden thumbs up crushing the Statue of Liberty's crown on head. On its pedestal were the words "Dictator Approved" and quotes from various authoritarian world leaders praising Trump, Russia's Vladimir Putin, Hungary's Viktor Orban, North Korea's Kim Jong-un, and Brazil's former president, Jair Bolsonaro. The following week, that statue was replaced with one of the golden bald eagles perched on a gilded television set, which played a continuous loop of Trump dancing. The pedestal beneath it quoted the White House responses to the previous week's statue. In the United States of America, you have the freedom to display your so-called art, no matter how ugly it reads. Earlier this month, during the Federal Reserve's interest rate meeting, a golden-hued statue of Trump holding up a giant Bitcoin appeared on the mall for a single day. That was not the work of the secret handshake, the group says. A collective cryptocurrency investors took credit for the statue at the time, saying it was designed to prompt the conversation about the future of government-issued currency and reflection on cryptocurrency's growing influence. Shooting at ICE detention facility in Dallas kills one, injures two others. Police cars and ambulances wait outside an immigration and customs enforcement detention facility in Dallas, where a shooting took place on Wednesday morning. In this screenshot from a Texas Department of Transportation traffic camera video, federal authorities say shooting Wednesday morning at an immigration detention facility in Dallas was an act of targeted violence against the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Dallas Police Chief Daniel Comeg said a gunman killed one person and injured two others, according to a post on X by Dallas Police. A suspect opened fire at a government building from an adjacent building. Two people were transported to the hospital with gunshot wounds. In a statement, the Department of Homeland Security said the suspect died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Speaking during a news conference with politicians and authorities, Joe Rothrock, the FBI special agent in Dallas, said early evidence suggests the suspected shooter was an anti-ICE in nature, due to writings found on bullet casings near the gunman. On X, the FBI director, Kash Patel, posted a picture of 5 unspent bowling casings, with one engraved with the words anti-ICE. Patel said, "These despicable, politically motivated attacks against law enforcement are not one-off. We are only miles from Pearland, Texas, where just 2 months ago, an individual ambushed a separate ICE facility, targeting their officers. Rothrick says no members of law enforcement were hurt during this attack. During the news conference, officials gave no details on who was shot or the circumstances into the early morning shooting in an earlier statement. The Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, said, "ICE law enforcement is facing unprecedented violence against them. It must stop." Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson pleaded for people to be patient as the investigation continues. "Let's remain calm and let our law enforcement partners, our police department, do their job," he says. "This is an active investigation. There are still a lot of unanswered questions." Several officials, including Texas Senator Ted Cruz, said politically motivated violence needs to stop. "Our opponents are not Nazis," Cruz said. Division rhetoric has consequences. This is a breaking news story. Some things reported by the media may later turn out to be wrong. We will focus on reports from officials and other authorities, credible news outlets, and reporters who are at the scene. We will update as the situation develops. A student winning podcast looks back to a way of life she never knew. Avani Yalho, the 2025 high school winner of NPR's Student Podcast Challenge, poses for a portrait with her recording setup in her room in Houston. Avani Yalho's podcast, The Things We Buried, begins with the thrill of a wooden flute. The haunting sound propels a listener on a trip into the past, set in motion by her first line. "My grandmother says mango trees used to belong to everyone." Her narrative takes listeners to the village of Kerala, a state at the southern tip of India, where Avani's grandparents grew up. Her story explores the things that have disappeared over decades: urbanization and globalization in media. Our judges found it so moving that they chose The Things We Buried from the nearly 2,000 entries we received. As this year's grand prize winner for high school in NPR's Student Podcast Challenge, it was a beautiful exploration of what can be lost over time, said B.A. Parker, a host of the NPR's Code Switch and one of this year's judges. And she smartly shepherds conversations with her family while holding the hand of the listener in a cool way. Avani describes the communities full of colorful houses with doors wide open to the world. Groups of children would run to the mango tree in town and wait for the wind to shake the fruit loose. No fences, no ownership, just laughter, sticky fingers, and the simple joy of being together. She says in her podcast, "That was Kerala." Her descriptive prose at times felt like sometimes out of a storybook, and she uses family interviews to weave a cohesive narrative. Now, if you go to the most of the towns or villages, you'll find an elderly couple living there alone. Avani's grandfather, Jacob George, says in the podcast, "The youngsters are nowhere to be found. The kids are leaving. They don't want to stay in India." Syra George, Avani's mom, jumps in to add, It's more like they were leaving for better opportunities, their education, jobs abroad. Yamani Yatho in the center poses for a portrait with her grandfather Jacob George and grandmother, mostly Molly George, in the backyard of their home in Houston. Decades ago, Avani's grandparents were some of the youngsters who were leaving India for more opportunity. They settled in Texas and raised their daughter. Now, their granddaughter is a second-generation Texan and a senior at the St. Agnes Academy in Houston. She said getting older has made her think about her childhood more, and the difference between her youth and that of her grandparents. It's just kind of crazy to me that I haven't had fruit that picked from a garden, Avani told NPR when we visited her at her home in Houston. I've never had that, and part of me wishes that I got to see what was before. Avani has been to India once, but a lot of that's left of her grandmother's house and mango tree is a couple of bricks and a stump. The fields near where her grandfather grew up are now subdivided into small plots of full houses. When she started her podcast, she enlisted the help of a cousin in Kerala to find sounds of children playing outside, which she told us when she got the record clips back. All you could hear was the sound of traffic in the background. Similarly, the birds posed a big challenge. It was difficult to get those bird sounds, specifically the call bird. She told us no one could find it. Many things are different, but sometimes an unexpected comfort from home will take root. For Avani's family, that comfort comes in the shape of a curry leaf tree growing up on the side of their house in Houston. Years ago, her grandmother tossed some seeds outside without much thought. Now, the tree is thriving. So she says, maybe a garden is next. Semana Santa in Antigua, Guatemala. The Spanish tradition of Semana Santa, Holy Week, arrived when the Spaniards in Guatemala in 1524. 500 years later, Guatemala holds one of the most elaborate celebrations in the world, with grand processions, lavish floats, and intricately designed alfombras, carpets. Antigua, Guatemala hosts hundreds of thousands of visitors every year who yearn to be part of the religious and cultural festivities, a mix of Spanish tradition and indigenous cultural beliefs. Holy Week is the week leading up to Easter Sunday, commemorating the Passion, Crucifixion, and Resurrection of Jesus Christ. For the people of Guatemala, there is no celebration more anticipated than Semana Santa. Although Holy Week begins on Palm Sunday, religious celebrations actually begin up to a month in advance, starting with the first day of Lent, Ash Wednesday. Lent in Antigua, Guatemala, 2026. Wednesday, February 18th to Thursday, April 2nd. During the month of Lent, unique religious vigils are held every Friday and Sunday in a different church in Antigua. The church holding the vigil is decorated to commemorate a passage from the Bible leading up to Easter Sunday. Vigils begin 9 a.m. and last until 11 p.m. So the church remains open to various visitors traveling from near and far. Many of the sculptures on display have been preserved since Spanish colonial times. Visitors pray to these sacred sculptures before the figures are robed and carried in processions throughout the day, throughout the city. Each church displays an alfombra made from colored sawdust, pine needles, and fresh flowers, fruits, and vegetables. The fruits and vegetables are placed on the outside of the carpet as an offering to the saints. The alfombras are constructed by La Hermandad, the brotherhood of the church, but during Semana Santa, many residents and businesses work together to create an alfombra of their own, which can sometimes take up to 24 hours to construct. Semana Santa in Antigua, 2026, Sunday, March 29th to Saturday, April 4th. The most important days of Holy Week are Palm Sunday, Good Friday, and Holy Saturday. And finally, Easter Sunday. Beginning Palm Sunday, exactly 1 week before Easter, Guatemalans flock to the city of Antigua to commemorate the day Jesus entered Jerusalem. According to the Bible, he was received by the people with branches of palm trees and leaves in their hands, hence the name Palm Sunday. Leaves are collected and made into bouquets, adorned with flowers, and then blessed by a priest. Colorful handmade decorations and embellishments are used for the processions which take place at the famous churches of La Merced, San Francisco, and Escuela de Cristo. Guatemalans hang curtains, cloth bows, and paper decorations of purple, red, lilac, and yellow. In doorways and windows to signify the suffering and royalty of Jesus. The procession of Palm Sunday includes andas, floats, displaying scenes of the figures of Christ and the Holy Virgin of Sorrow. The Brotherhood coordinates the processions, including the floats and curucochos, bearers. The floats can be up to 18 meters long and requires 50 to 100 cucuruchos dressed in purple robes with white waistbands to carry them throughout the procession. Holy shrines have evolved into complex works of art with sculptors and painters competing for the honorable position of decorating and creating scenes for Semana Santa. Similar processionals are held through Thursday, celebrating Jesus' last day on earth. A band plays outside of the church as people gather for food, drinks, and games. Holy Thursday and Good Friday. Thursday, April 2nd, and Friday, April 3rd. Though one of the more important processions begin on Good Friday, preparations actually begin up to 24 hours prior, making it imperative to include Holy Thursday in the narrative of Semana Santa. On Thursday, families and businesses start working on their original alfombras. Which can sometimes take months to plan. Following their blueprint, everyone partakes in creating a dazzling alfombra worthy of the destruction from procession, signifying that neither life nor death are permanent. People typically work through the night to ensure the alfombras are perfect for the procession early Friday. Though some people might use stencils for accuracy, others use a freehand technique to construct alfombras that are uniquely beautiful and imperfect. It is said that it rains every year in Antigua on Good Friday, beginning at 3 a.m. and by 4 a.m. when the rain clears, processions from La Merced Church begin. The bearers swap their blue robes for black ones. While the previously colored decorations strung throughout the city are replaced with black decorations to mourn the crucifixion of Christ. The floats depict scenes of Jesus carrying his cross, while marching band walks behind the floats, playing a solemn number to incite emotion. The alfombras disappear as the processionals pass along the route, and participants immediately begin making new ones for processionals yet to come. A second procession is led by the Escuela de Cristo Church with floats depicting a mourning Virgin Mary. The floats are carried exclusively by women, who are also wearing black to mourn Jesus' passing. The streets are filled with sorrows as the road clears and beautiful colored carpets no longer brighten the cobblestone streets. Thousands of mourners, clothed in black, burn incense and carry lanterns. A figure of Jesus Christ is laid to rest at the church at 11 p.m. The masses pray quietly while others openly weep. Holy Saturday and Easter Sunday. Saturday, July 4th and Sunday, April 5th. Saturday, April 4th and Sunday, April 5th. The mood continues through Holy Saturday with more processions depicting the mourning. Mother of Christ. All floats on Saturday are carried by female mourners. Then at 10 p.m., the churches began celebrating Jesus' resurrection. Easter Sunday lifts the solemn mood of the city and replaces it with festive atmosphere. Easter Sunday finds people smiling and cheering, children waving colored flags, confetti being tossed in the air, and fireworks lighting the sky.